everyone, welcome back to our series on building a box punching machine. In our previous video, we created all the necessary parts using Siemens NX. Today we are going to move forward with the assembly of this part. Before we dive into the assembly, I'd like to take a moment to correct a few mistakes I made in the last video. It is important to address these issues to ensure our assembly goes smoothly. Once we've made those corrections, we proceed with the assembly. And in our next video, we'll move on to the drafting phase to create the detailed technical drawings of our machine. If you're enjoying this series, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any future updates. Let's get started. Okay, on the last video, we made a mistake on creating the clamp hole. As you can see here, we have a hole and the depth of this hole is not shown on this piece. So what you're gonna use for this depth, if you can look over on this piece should fit inside this hole until the end of this. So we're gonna use the dimension of this piece from here to there to make the depth of this hole. And also these two holes start from here to there, not from here to the center. So let's go to NX and recreate this piece. So I'm gonna start with like creating my sketch. I'm gonna use the front view. 16. Okay. Here my height is 14 since if you can see here it's 7 if you're starting from here to the center. So it times this by 2. And then for this one I said 21 over 2 since I'm only drawing this thing from the center to the side. And then I'm gonna add this arc which is of radius 42. My sketch is fully constrained, so I'm gonna revolve. Okay. Now for these two walls, you can either create a tumbling here from the center distance of 4, but it should be like this, or else we just say extrude. When you say sketch, you can just say from the right. Okay. Okay, here I'm gonna make a circle of radius 3, and this circle should be at a height of 7 from the center. And then moving from the origin horizontally, it should be 4. And this is the 4. Then I'm gonna extrude symmetric value. And then here you can just enter anywhere, just make sure that it goes from the side to that side. As you can see here, and make sure here it's subtract, not because if you use unite, it's gonna be something like this. And then now it looks like this one. Because if you can come here just to be sure. Select here, this should be edit section. See, and then now I'm going to create this hole. So if you look here on our clamp screw, the distance from here to there, it's 98.4 minus 86.4, of which is 12. Mean that the depth of our hole will be 12, and then the diameter should be 12, should be 8. So, and I'm gonna come here to my sketch, and then create sketch here. I said the diameter should be 8, and I extrude diameter should be 12, and apply, and there it is. See, this is also similar to this one. So now I'm gonna move on to that assembly. Before we start with the assembly, you have to make sure that all your parts are saved on one folder, as I've done here. This is the box punching machine folder, and these are all the parts that I need. My guide, there's the guide, there's the body, there's the main screw, pin, handle, handle knob, bolt, nut, clamp screw, pin, clamp holder, clamp handle, clamp knob, and there's my punch. So the next step is to make sure that the material on all these parts is assigned before you start with the assembly, as that will allow you to be able to view your messes of the assembly and center of mess. So now I'm going to open all my parts to NX. Now that I've opened all my parts, I'm going to start assigning material. But firstly, I would like to show you how to open parts that maybe say someone sends you a part from another software or something. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna say file, open, and then if you go to the folder and maybe the folder that you have the file to send to you, maybe from SolidWorks or other 3D software, you should come here and select all, and then the parts will show, and then you select them. And then you save them again as parts. So now I'm gonna add the material as shown in here. For the guide, it should be titanium alloy. The next one is the body. Added material to all the parts, and then you have to make sure that you save everything. Now we move on creating the assembly. The first thing you're gonna create the box. You come here. If you look at this picture, the first part that we should add, okay, the first part that we should add is the guide on our assembly. And then if you come here, you see where datum is. So I'm gonna come to assemblies and add component, which would be the guide. Okay, you have to make sure here it's one, since there's only one guide. Okay, the first thing to do, you come here in home and you say datum, and then you say dynamic. Okay. What you're gonna do, you're gonna come here and say datum CYS, and then it should appear like this. And you say apply and cancel. And then now you have your datum. You're gonna add the first part. So I'm gonna start with adding my guide. So when I'm adding the pieces on the assembly, I'm gonna add them the way they are in here. So I'm gonna start with the guide, go to the body, so on and so on. Or else we can add all the pieces and start the assembly. If you feel like you don't complicate things, you can add them all starting from 1 up to 14. Or else add them one by one. So we're gonna come to add component and select the guide and select it there. He says you just edit the first component of the assembly. You want to create a first constraint. I'm gonna say no, since I haven't constrained this thing to the right position. I have to make sure that it is in the right position, and then I add the fixed constraint. So what I'm gonna do, if you come here, you can see that the center of the guide is aligned with the z-axis. So we come to assembly constraint, then you say align, and you select z with this. Make sure it's up. And then now what you can also do is to make sure that it is in the right position. You're going to add the distance from here to the XY, and it should be 0. And also make sure that Y, okay, it should be parallel. That this, the Y axis is parallel with this. And now it is in the right position. Now we can add the fixed constraint, because even if you can look here, this is the same now. So we're going to add the fixed constraint, and then it's going to have like conflicting constraints, because you have the fixed constraint, which means this thing is fixed in this position, and also these constraints are doing the same thing. So you have to delete them. So the reason why we use the fixed constraint is if when I add the other parts in the assembly, Say I want to constrain maybe the body with this part. I want the body to be the one that moves to this part, not this part moving to where the body is, so that it doesn't affect your center of mass and everything. So now I'm gonna add the second part, which I think it was the board. Then the body is aligned with the guide. For now, I'm just gonna align the body with the guide, and then I'm not gonna add any distance or anything until I've added these pieces. And then what I can do, I can first start by moving it. I want to move 90 degrees. Then we can now use the assembly constraints. And you come here, make sure here it's aligned. I'm gonna select the center line and come to the guide and select the guide center line. And then I'm gonna move it up so that I can see the center. And okay, I'm also gonna constrain this thing to its position, since if you look here, okay, let me like this. If you can look here, I'm gonna align the center of the guide with the center of this hole here. So I'm gonna come to assembly constraints again and say align and select this center line and align it with this line. Now it is in the right position. The other thing that you can do, if you feel like it is not like parallel to the ZX, you can come here. This is parallel, right? And select the face and come and select the Z X plane or XZ. And now this thing is parallel to this. But adding that is optional. And if you see it is parallel, there's no need for adding it. So now everything seems to be in place. Now I'm gonna add the second part, which is the main screw. And the main screw, is our main screw. And then the main screw should be aligned with the board first. Make sure here it's aligned. And you select the center line of the main screw and the center line of the board. And then the other thing is, if you look here, okay, before let's add the pin first. Oh, okay, I can first do this. If you look here, the pin is coming in this direction, which means that this hole should be parallel to Z. And you select the center line and the Z axis. And then the other thing that you are giving is the other thing that is also given is our distance. Distance is m. So what I should first do is add the expressions. So I'm gonna come here. My expressions are m, n, o, and p. And if you can look here, m is 40, the n is 22, o is 58, and p is 14. I'm gonna apply. And then if you come back to our pictures, you can see that o is the end. So I'm gonna change the length to end, and also p, I'm gonna change it to end, and I'm gonna apply. Now let me hide the guide and then go back to assembly constraint and add the distance. And now the distance should start from this face to this face, and it should be m. Then you can bring back the guide. This is how it should look. And then now I'm gonna add the screw pin. Screw pin, as you can see, it should come in here. So just say assembly constraint and align this, this. See if it's set that right. Yeah, it should be like this. And then the distance from the face to this face should be 0. And now we move on to the hinge. Add component, we add the engine. And then the hanging should go into our main screw, and that is shown here. So what you're gonna do, uh, select the center and you align it with this, like this. The length of the hinge was 265. So if you come here to distance and I select the face of the hinge and the center of the main screw and say 265 over 2, and reverse the direction to make sure that the center of the guide is there. Right. Now I'm gonna add my handle knob. And if you look here, we have two handle knobs. So it's add component. We select the handle knob and you should change the count to 2. They they are. And then since the end is a cylinder, we can use concentric and select the edge here to this edge over here, and there it is. And also for this one, at this edge to this, and there it is. You're done. Now, what I want just to do, if you look here, you can see that the angle and the angle from Z, the angle it's O. So I'm gonna put this thing like this. So it's gonna be like this. And then remember that when we're adding the pin, we added a constraint which made this hole to be parallel to Z. So now if I try to add the angle of the angle and Z, it won't add that constraint. It's gonna have conflicting constraint. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna come here, and this is the assembly constraint of main screw parallel. And then you're gonna delete this one. And then now I'm gonna add a constraint. Okay, you select the angle, and then you're gonna select the center line and select Z, and it should be O. You apply. Now let's work. And then we're gonna bring back the guide. And yeah, this is it. Then now we move on to the next part. We have added the handle, we have added the angle now. And now I'm gonna add the bolt and nut. There's our bolt. And now I should make sure here it's one, not two, since we have only one bolt. Let me also add the nut. Then for these ones, if you look at this thing, this direction, the nut is in this side, the bolt is this side, and the nut is this side. So when I use assembly constraint, then when I use concentric and select this and this and change our direction, and also do the same thing for this. And then now we have added our bolt and nut. And if you can see here, it is exactly the same. So now we move on. I'm gonna add the clamp screw, which is that one. I'm gonna add component clamp screw. The clamp screw should also be aligned like that. So we come to assembly constraint align this, that's it. Uh, If you can see here, that's X. This thing is facing in along the Y. So I'm gonna come and say assembly constraint and say parallel and select this line and come there and select Y axis. Now it is facing in this direction. And then our distance is N. So you come here and select distance. This face and this face, it's N. Apply. Then now I'm gonna add the pin and the jump hold. Okay. And then if you look here, the pin should come in this side. Which means that the temp holder should be like this. Because I can say assembly constraint, say parallel. Set this line to parallel with Y. It's coming up. Okay. Let me play it again. Oh, I said U. Oh, I'm selecting the wrong thing. So I should select Y there. And I'm gonna press it. And then move again to 80. Selecting the wrong one. Save to 180. Okay. Then yeah, this shouldn't be parallel to Y. Actually, it should be parallel to, if you look here, Y is going like this. Yeah, it should be parallel to X. with X. Concentric first, then I'm gonna let it set parallel. Yes, with X. And then let me move it. Like this. G Z 1 B. Think it didn't work. Okay, let's first say use the constraint. This one, and that one. Then this should be this side, not that side. So what I'm gonna do is let me and then try to move it like that and say 180. Yeah, right. Now like it is in the position. And then I'm gonna add the pin. I'm gonna just align the pin with this line, the center line. And then let me hide the jump screw, and the length of the pin was 28. So the distance from here to the center of the clamp hold should be 28 over 2. Apply, and there's the clamp screw. Now everything is in order. And then you're gonna add the clamp handle and the clamp knob. Let me say clamp handle, it is apply. Let me just also add the clamp knobs. And the clamp knobs, there are two of them. There they are. And then you can see here how this thing is assembled. So I'm gonna come here and say assembly constraints. Select the, okay. To make it easy, let me just move this so that I can demonstrate it easily. And then we use concentric again. This to this and this. No. Okay. Should be concentric. Make sure that you select the edge here and the edge there. And this edge with the no, okay, then you reverse the thing now. Wait, this is okay. Should you, and you, and you. Then you apply. The clamp behind you comes to the clamp screw. So you're just gonna say assembly constraint and choose align. You're gonna align this with this center line. Line. And then the clamp handling length was 8, which means that the distance from here to the center it's 40. But I'm gonna say negative 40 so that it comes to the other side. And now it's perfectly fine. And the only thing that is missing now is the punch. So I'm gonna say add component. And there's the punch. And if you can look here, the punch touches the main screw. Okay, I'm gonna undo the punch since I added two of them. As you can see, it should be one, not two. Now let me just undo, and then I'm gonna add component again and punch and change it to one. And then it is apply. And then assembly constraint. I'm gonna use concentric. And then this. And then I'm gonna hide the guide. I'm gonna select there and change the direction, apply, and we're done with the assembly. And then I think this video is gonna end here, and the following videos, because the video is taking a lot of time to do. So I'm gonna do the second video alone of the crafting and how to do the explosion and everything. And what I can do here to hide you all these constraints, you should make sure that there's nothing red here and there's nothing here showing that there's an error. And then I can save my assembly, and then you can hide your constraint here like this. But you have to make sure that before you hide them, there's nothing that is red, which means showing that they are conflicting constraints. And on the following video, then that's where I'll do the assembly and the drafting of the assembly and how to do the explosion view and how to check your messes and center of mess. Okay, I can just do that now. Oh, there it is. So when checking your center of mess and the mess, you should make sure that all your parts have the material. And then if this is not showing, you right click here and you go to columns and you select what you want to add. So as you can see here, I have the mess in grams and I also have the center of mess. If you only want the center of mess for the X, you can just unselect this and select the X only. And then you have to come to file, to properties, and make sure that this thing is ticked so that it can update Miss Properties on save. So every time you save, it's going to update your Miss Properties. And also make sure that the material is assigned to every part. And as you can see that it didn't update everything. So what you have to do, you have to go to all your parts and make sure that you come to file properties and you make sure that update make properties on save is there. And then you also go to your guide properties, like just make sure that everything like this. You want to let you save every change that you make. You see that let's save is updated message. Okay, now I'm done and everything has been changed to update mess properties on save. So you should make sure that this thing is always ticked. And then I'm gonna go back to my assembly and then I pick save and everything now is showing here. You have your messes, your center of mess. Here it is. This is X, this is Y, and this is Z. And then you save your assembly. And then this is it. Then I'll just upload the following video for this one. Thank you for watching and don't forget to hit like and subscribe.